What a beautiful morning. Fishing on any river, any place that I fish, coming down early when you've got the early morning activity of the birds and all of the animals and the coolness of the day. It's just absolutely beautiful. As you can see, no wind at all, although I believe it's very hot and there's going to be a cool change coming through today. So I think I only have a couple of hours and I don't have much bait or anything else, so that will probably run out. But I will fish this area here immediately in front of me, and I'm just going to be sort of throwing out burley immediately in front of me, trying to attract those fish in, see what I can do in a couple of hours before the sun gets high, starts to burn me. But even just being here without fish, it's just absolutely serene. So it's a nice way to start the day. So just throw some of my burley out over that spot that I'd cast to. That'll drift around with the current and bring those fish up. People often ask me about whether fish are spooked by things like boats on the water or by sort of heavy noises nearby. And look, most of the time they are, unless those noises are there all the time. So if you're fishing on an area that gets plenty of watercraft going over the top of it, the fish get habituated to that, and you can be getting bites when there's boats just travelling by. Or if there's big booming machinery nearby, if that's going all the time, the fish get used to it and it will bite in that. What happens is when there's any break in a pattern they're used to. So if they're not used to boats, a boat will spook them. Or if they're used to boats travelling up and down, but one stops immediately above them, that might spook them. Likewise, if you come to a point where machinery just starts and it's big thudding machinery, that may well scare the fish as well. So they're not scared of what they're used to, but it's a bit like us. Any type of change, anything's different makes them a bit suspicious. And that's when that can ruin the fishing for you. So sometimes you have to relocate if conditions are bad. I'm getting little hits on this rod at the moment, and they're so tiny that I've actually got to hold it just so I can I've got to hold the rod just so I can feel what's going on. Okay, getting bites on this rod again, little hits, and they want to stop now. But the fish are pulling the bait off so easily, like you're only getting say 2 or 3 hits, and then 2 or 3 hits, and then you know that the bait is gone. So I'll have to check this in a second. If I don't get anything else, I might sometimes just by holding absolutely still, you can feel everything that's going on, and so you can actually feel the fish even brushing against the line. And sometimes what will happen is you'll get false bites. You know, the fish do actually brush by the line at times when they're going around the burley and things, and you might think that that's a bite. So you've got to wait until you feel enough resistance. Oops, and I've got the other rod, it's just twitching the tiny bit as well. So I've got the fish around here, but oops, there we go. Just see this one then. See if I can do anything with it. Okay, I've got something small on this. If I can hang on to it. Oh my goodness. And it is small, all right. Oh, look at that. Have a look at that. Oh my goodness. There you go. I don't get much smaller than that. That would have probably been an egg not that long ago. Well, there you go. Well, I thought I was getting bites from yabbies, but I wasn't. These little fellas, little silver perch, were taking my bait. So now I know it wasn't yabbies, but they pick the same way that yabbies do. Anyway, it's good to see there's plenty of little fish around. I'm hoping for some bigger stuff, but even so, just catching a few, because I don't have long. The sun's going to be high and it's going to get really hot. Anyway, I'll put this one back, see if I can catch anything more before I go. Look, if the fishing's hard, and say I'm using a live bait like worms, I do a thing called a sacrifice bait. What I do is I thread the worms in 2 parts. I thread it through 2 sides of the worm so that so the back and front, so that it's only pierced in 2 points. If you pierce in too many points, where you try to thread the worm through it, it will kill the worm, so it won't be active for that long. But that's all right, because on your bait you can have dead and live ones. But typically what I'll do, I'll put the worm through 2 ends. I'll put a couple of those on, and then towards the point of the hook, I'll put what I call my sacrifice worms on. I'll put them through 1 point only. Because they're only through 1 point, they'll come off a bit easier. But because they're only through 1 point, they tend to stay alive longer and move more. When they're pierced through 2 points, they don't move quite as much. 1 point, they do. And the thing is that the fish, if they're picking, they'll get they might get the first 2 worms, they might get them for free. Perfect, because then they get confidence. And that works when the fishing's pretty hard, or if you then notice, of course, that the free ones, or the sacrifice ones, are always missing. You know that the fish are picking away, so you know that there might be fish around. That does work. It's just a little bit of a change sometimes from your standard fishing that you can introduce to the fish if they're not taking all your worms normally, and those sacrifice worms might give them the confidence to take that hook. It's worth trying. Okay, starting to get little hits on this rod here, and these are tiny, absolutely tiny hits, but they are those small fish. And you don't get many chances at this, you know. You get, say, 2 to 3 hits, as I said, and then the bait is gone. So they're clearly pulling off the ends of the worms, but that's what you've got to live with when you're trying to get, you know, the fish and they're relatively small. Or even some of these bigger fish have very small mouths. Silver perch in particular have very small mouths for their size, so they can still be, even the larger fish can be picking at your baits. Or if your hook's too big, then you're not going to get them at all. I mean, if you come out here looking for the bigger fish, and you're using, you know, your size 4 or size 6 hook, you won't ever catch these, and you'll always just wonder what has taken your bait. Okay, well, I'd have to say in this case I'm pretty sure this is a yabby. I can sort of feel the resistance on the bottom as I'm trying to lift the rod slightly. He's holding on to it. He's holding on to the bait there, so he'll let go soon. But yeah, this is a yabby, because these burley cages are very light and they lift off the bottom straight away. They're designed to do that. But I think I'll leave that, because the other rod is showing a couple of little tiny twinges as well. This is so subtle. I'll just hang on to this while that goes on. Wow. Gee, I mean, if you weren't really paying close attention, you'd never know that there was anything on the other end. Oh, it's dropped it. What's happened now? Yep, yeah. Okay. Yep, got it. I hope if I can hang on to it. It's a bigger, that's a better fish. It's a better fish. Oh, don't get me into, oh no, it's a, what is it? Is that a carp? Yeah, it's a carp. Okay, so that is, yes, okay, that explains that. Okay, not my preferred species, but anyway, it was a fish today. It is on a very small hook too, and I might, it could pull out. I'll just get my net. He may not have played out yet. Okay. Oops, he doesn't like the net too much. Guess I can understand that. Good, come on. I need a bigger net. That's what I think I need. Ah, and he's off. Well, that's what happens when you use a hook that size. So yeah, I guess it was bound to happen. My bad. But yeah, you would have seen that I just lost a carp. I'd say probably a couple of kilos, right? That's the size of the hook that I was using. Okay, it was a size 10, very, very small. So I still got a 2 kilo carp in running water, so it's able to create resistance. I'll still be able to get it in with this. My net was far too small. Like I got it in and out of that net a couple of times, so I really should have banked that fish. I didn't. Bad me. but it just shows you still can catch reasonable sized fish on small hooks if you know how to play them, and if you're better at using a net than I am. So, important safety hint there, okay? Small hooks catch fish, but they can also lose them if you've got somebody who's not all that good with nets. Well, I've been getting plenty of bites, but unfortunately the sun is going to come over those trees pretty soon. When it does, it's going to get very, very hot, so I'll have to go then. Well, it's time to leave. The sun has come over the trees there to my right, and it's already very hot. With the sun on you, it's just too hot to be here, and I was a little unprepared. I didn't bring my umbrella, so I have to move now. Now, I've been here for about 1 3/4 hours, and in that time I've hooked the 2 fish you saw. I got plenty of bites. I missed some, and yes, some of the things taken by my boat were most definitely yabbies, but others were definitely fish. And I hooked a couple and got them part of the way in, lost those, and I also had plenty of bites where the boat was taken immediately, and those were fish as well. So it was great working out how to catch those fish, pretty funny too, and just working out the right size hook, working out what bait, how to present the bait, and using the burley to attract the fish, and just standard techniques. Just changing things though really made the difference. So that's satisfying to be able to catch fish, and even though they were small, and I returned it of course, it's satisfying to know that you can catch those fish, because if you can catch the smaller fish on those hard days, then you can catch those big fish as you need to, okay? And let's face it, there's always more small fish than there are big fish, so you're always going to catch the small fish more likely, because that's what there's more of. But it means that at least when you go somewhere you can catch. So look, if you've enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you want any more information on how to fish, the gear I was using, the burley, etc., go to my website, howtofish.com.au.